So I'd just like to welcome everybody and thank you for turning up to our podcasting Skillshare. It's one of a series, a monthly series that we put on as part of a Scottish Communities Climate Action Network Storyteller Collective. And as you might know, SCCAN supports community-led action to address the climate and nature emergency and work for a just, thriving and resilient Scotland. And the Storytellers Collective is sort of, at the moment, we're trying to form a mutually supportive network of storytellers to help us shift the unhealthy and really destructive narratives that are around, that are causing a lot of these problems, to something that's more regenerative. And we thought podcasting Skillshare is one thing that we could do to sort of boost each other's skills and give each other mutual support in telling the stories and upskilling ourselves and keeping on because it's sometimes quite a challenging thing to keep on going with this work. We run our own podcast, 1000 Better Stories. And we realize that there's lots of other podcasters out there that work in a similar field. So hopefully this is useful for everybody. There's also a blog, which my colleague Joanna takes care of. We welcome contributions from everybody to these spaces. And we still have, I don't know if you've heard, but we do have mini grants that are available for contributors, and you can find information on that on the SCCAN website, or you can get in touch with us on stories at scottishcommunitiescan.org.uk. Yeah, without much of me going on here at that point, I'm really excited today to introduce you to our guest, Nico. Is it Nico Ndlovu?
Yes.
Okay, great. He's the host and producer of We Talk podcast, and he's a podcaster and stand-up comedian, as he said, born in Zimbabwe and now living in Glasgow. And he will talk about his podcasting journey over the last 2 years and his work collaborating with Enough, which is Scottish Degrowth Network, and his other projects as well, which are related to that. So, Nico, over to you.
Okay, yes, thank you. First of all, I want to hear, is everyone can hear me properly? Oh, that's good. Yeah. So, yes, I think, thank you so much for the intro, Kasaka, of course. I started in 2020, the broadcast during the lockdown, because the idea was to give asylum seekers their voices to be heard. And secondly, I knew that some people, they were living by themselves. There was no families, so in lockdown was much tough, even for myself as well. So I started, so I'm going to do Zoom. I thought it was a joke. And I invited people, 3 people, about 20 people turn up. And then I said, this is not a podcast anymore. This will become something else. But the idea stays as exact as I planned. That time I had a very poor equipment. So everything was terrible. You wouldn't listen to the first episode that it was just, but I went again with it. So as I said, I've always been volunteering as well around Glasgow with the projects that work with asylum seekers, refugees, and stuff like that. So I had a little bit of an idea as asylum seeker as well at times. I know how hard is it for us as refugees to our voice to be heard, And we always got this thing in life. They always say, "Tell me your story," but they never tell me their story. So I thought that would be great to interview service providers, and also share their stories and how. So if you combine these 2 stories, my story and your story, in the same journey, it's really interesting to find out some people, they're doing that job because they really love to help people. And some people, they're doing that job because they have to earn a living. So there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody has to survive somehow. So I started doing that. Interviewed a few asylum seekers, special mothers during the lockdown. And some of them, they were in London. There was one complaint in particular that stayed with me, was about how the refugees' kids get treated in schools. when it comes to the food, the meals and stuff like that. But I don't have 100% evidence on that. But someone they were talking about, so become like sharing stories. That's and raising awareness. Then I keep doing that until after lockdown, and then I done lots of comedy online, which means it was really difficult. I didn't understand it until later on, and I was that given. I met a lot of people around the world during the Zoom sessions for comedy, but I used to tell the comedians online, don't sit down because the word stand up, it means stand up. So, and on Zoom, so what I did, I created my own stage in the house where I can actually stand up with the mic. It looks perfect. But lots of people didn't want to stand. They're sitting down. He didn't give me any vibes like, oh, this is a stand-up. But again, there's nothing wrong with that because it was nice to get people together. And special comedians around the world. We had one time some guys from India, they forgot that some of us who speak English, so this guy get on the stage speaking his language for a comedy. I only laughed when I see him laughing, but I didn't understand what was he talking about, So it was fun. It was good fun. So yeah, carry on. I done lots of. I tried to get interviews to some other projects, like really like Scottish Refugee Council. I didn't get any luck because I think if I can get them to talk about, because I think they got lots to share with us about how, about asylum seekers and refugees as well. That's why the idea came from the service providers to speak out, sharing their own experience to be so great. But maybe one day they'll come forward, but it'll be great. What else? The podcast is grown up. Yeah, a big, almost like 2,000 people listening. They played my episodes and stuff like that. And now I'm gonna get to the point why I'm here. Is that because some of you, I think you listened to the podcast I done with Degrowth and Decolonization in Scotland. I was hired by Enough to interview their own groups, their own, I don't know if I say groups or their community. So I was very interested. The one thing I want to be honest with you, I did not know anything about degrowth and decolonization at all. So I was set up. They just give me like questions to go and ask people questions without any knowledge what I'm asking about. But the good news, what came out during those interviews was very interesting and amazing for me to learn. And because I was talking to people who are really very know what they're talking about, like environmental people, food producers, farmers, and very, very, very nice people as well. So I learned, but I remember like when I heard the word decolonization, something did come to my mind. Like I'm from the country that's been colonized, and so decolonization, it did come to my head. Something must be happening on this word. So as the interview they go on, and then every time I interview someone, I learn different way. That word to be translated in a different way. So that's why I learn about English words. Sometimes we can all say one word, but we all see it in the way people describe the situation, for example, if it's different, but still the same point. And decolonization as well. Sorry, degrowth. Degrowth I learned as well. Like some people get more, some people get less. For example, I think what came up to my mind was like, years ago, I don't know if people know Zimbabwe, used to be the best country for tobacco in Africa years in 70s and stuff like that. Then when the British left, our tobacco is no longer good anymore. I'm like, why? Because it's the same tree, it's the same plant. Nothing has changed, but now it's no longer good. So that's why I thought, that's degrowth to me, because now you don't want me to grow, but I don't know if it makes sense, but that's the way I look at it in my own way. So as I said, everyone is different. They might see degrowth in a different way. But for me, I pick up that some people get more. Like maybe like in Scotland, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe there's some big farmers, but maybe only 3 big farmers control the other small farmers. in production. I'm not 100% sure, but something like that. And then I learned that I didn't know that the land discretion was the land thing was an issue in Europe as well. I thought it was only in Africa, where the government control lots of the land and stuff like that. But yeah, so when I was doing this interview, something came up. They were talking about the land and how to grow our own food as well. That's interesting. Like now I grow my own mixed peppers in the house, so it's quite good. I think the importance of the working with degrowth or enough, I really learned a lot, and it's kind of like was new to me. And after those interviews, even until today, my activism, what's called like being an activist, it's been boosted. So now I'm kind of like know how to work around all these issues and talk about things. Now I'm more confident to talk about degrowth and decolonization, even if I don't understand it from the beginning, but a little bit, I got that confidence. So yeah, I think now the idea of the podcast is changed a lot when I start meeting people like yourselves today, and the other groups like this. Every time there's something, this ideas coming up better than before. Now I know I'm still like what's called shocked how fast this thing's going, and I'm happy again that way. And so yeah, I got another new project. I'll start interviews tomorrow. It's gonna be like 10 people. So I'll share, because I don't want to talk too much about it, because they have to control everything. Then they'll choose what platform they want to share these things with. Yeah, the episode, but they're all gonna end up in my podcast anyway. So that's good as well. It does grow the networks, because your network, another network, so it become like a really big community together, and as long raising awareness as well and learning. And yeah, if people ask me where I'm gonna go from here, I don't know. It's really scary, because I can see this gonna be really a massive, and if I can get some people to join me or collaboration together, so we'll make like something, because I work by myself in the moment. It's very a lot of work editing. I did myself. I learned during the lockdown. I edit my own videos. I do everything by myself. It can be a little bit not challenging, too much. But I like it. I enjoy that, because that's what I created. And I remember when I was small in Africa, people don't believe it, but it's true. That's why I like the storytelling. Like, it's very interesting. I used to joke with my friends when I was young. I said, I'll never work for anybody in my life. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, yeah, why should I? But again, I think I was stupid to say that, but it's true if you look at it, because I don't know. I grew up in a very, very poor, very poor village in Zimbabwe, like one car a day, that you know that these are people going to kill elephants. So it was really very, my grandmother. So maybe I can share those stories later on, but So I born in a place where you have to work hard to be somewhere, and there was a lot of challenges. So we learn how to not to complain, I mean to say, and be strong. But again, now when I live in Europe, I found out that was maybe a wrong way to teach kids that, like to say, oh, a man should not cry, a man not should complain. And I was like, but we're all human, because that's where now we've got lots of mental health in the African communities. Men actually who don't come out and speak about these issues, because you are told from the young age, you don't cry, you don't complain. And I look at it now, I think that was wrong. We should have given this opportunity to be, to feel free. Any emotion you have, you need to let it go and talk about it. But now it become an issue in our communities, because there's a lot of things we don't talk about. So that's one of the part of things in this podcast. Like, I'm trying to bring these topics, like talking about the issues in my community, special men, doesn't matter even women. But in our communities, there's a lot of things that we don't discuss because of culture differences or religion or stuff. So I want to break those barriers by using this podcast. I want to get through to it and make sure that people can actually feel free to talk about things.
Fascinating journey. I mean, yes, lockdown is responsible for all sorts of interesting creative projects, isn't it? It's been a blessing and a curse. I wanted to ask you a bit more about how the process worked with collaboration with Enough. How practically, what did you do for each episode and what input they've had and that kind of process?
The process started, I think was before we started last year, October, sorry. Before we start, we have to have regular meetings, for example. Like we meet every Monday to discuss all the stages, and then they do the recruiting of their people to be interviewed. Then we look at the budget of, they come to me, this is what they have. I didn't mind because I was, that's cool. But they choose the questions. So that's why I said I was set up. I didn't know anything about degrowth and decolonization. I went to it was very nice. I like that. And the process was simple. It's just like, because some of them were friends anyway, so we kind of like, we bought it very quickly. So, so it's good. So we have like a regular meetings, and then I remember the first interviews. I've got it here. So it was like, it was really nice. So the first interview was Monday, the 31st of January. So I had interviewed Theon and Thomas. They are very, very nice people. They live somewhere in Oost in the Highlands and stuff like that. And then one day I did Abby Norton. I think she's a food producer and stuff like that. And the process was simple. Like, for example, we asked the people I'm interviewing, what's the time availability for themselves? So for me, once I get a project, I'm flexible I'm flexible. So the people I have to interview, they're the one who have to give me the time. But what I learned during the interviews as well, when someone said I can do it today, this time, never miss that time. Just do it, because we're living in a busy world. You never get that chance to get that person. So I'll drop everything I'm doing and I go and do interview and move on. And the other thing, I'm learning this process. Like I think I forgot to add up something like 2 weeks ago, almost now 2 weeks. I interviewed a journalist called Sally Hayden. She's Irish, but she works in Middle East, in Africa, and Europe. She reports about movement of people like refugees and asylum seekers. So I was excited to hear that she was in Glasgow to launch a book. Yeah, and her book, I think, is called The Fourth Time We Drowned. And she was sharing me a story. I bought the book myself as well. So it was very interesting to talk to her, because she got so much knowledge as well. Like, she lived different countries and in Africa, and she wrote a book, and the stories about helping people in Libya, stuff like that. So it's really interesting. So I'm learning. This is a very exciting journey, I can say. I'm still flirting with it, so I like it.
Brilliant. I think there's a one question in the chat from Jennifer. Jennifer, do you want to unmute yourself and read it out, or?
Yeah, I can do. Thank you, Nico, for everything you shared. It's been like a really lovely insight to your journey. And I think you made a really interesting point towards the end about this narrative of emotion, and particularly that, men don't cry or don't kind of complain, and we just put our heads down and work. I wonder, like, from your experience, is that something that comes naturally to the community that you grew up in? Or kind of going back to the work you've done with degrowth and decolonization, is it a narrative that was actually brought to your communities through the kind of colonial history? Is it's a narrative that's been shared here for decades, if not centuries?
Yeah, thank you. I don't know, to be honest, how to start with this, but for me, I think like during the colonization, our countries are colonized. I think we are programmed that we are not good enough, and our lives, we should work for you, and everything's produced for us, and we have to speak English. They don't speak our language, something like that. So we're always like programmed stuff like that. And Yeah, it's a very difficult one because even our leaders are corrupt now. It's so confusing to get to the point of it because everything's all over the place now. But I think if I go back to my culture, that thing about emotion, you talk about it. It's kind of like it depends. Like for example, I lost my brother 2 years back. I was here in UK and still had, but so just a quick example. So when I was talking to my relatives back home on the phone, they sound very relaxed about this death. There was nothing really serious to them. Like everything sounded like was, no, it's fine. But for me, I was so taken different. My emotions was like really sad, and I mean like upset. But for them, these are like my other cousin brothers. They sound very calm. I'm not saying they said it's okay. I don't know if it makes sense. Like I can feel that they were not really, I don't know how to put, not hurt, but they're there, but they didn't take it, I don't know. Yeah, so yeah, we're all different. So for me, I was like, when I put that phone down, I was thinking, oh my God, in Africa, death has become normalized. I think because of things, I don't know, it's just me talking to myself. But here in Europe, it can be different as well. And I know I can make a joke on this, but it's true. I wrote one joke for the comedy about the differences of the African funeral and the European funeral. For example, the African funeral, the mother will be crying, rolling on the ground, and take me with me. And then the Scottish funeral, they'll be drinking whiskey, like, oh, Johnny's all right, mate. He was a good man. So these things, I like working. My writings about culture differences, I like really to get to make fun of it as well as you learning and stuff. I think that makes life easier.
I maybe have like a general question. You guys, you're mentioning that it was supported through or you were hired by Enough. Enough is not an organization that I've come across before. Maybe you can share a bit more about Enough and what they do and how can we get involved if we wish.
Well, I wouldn't really go deep to that much about Enough because as I told you, I was set up as well. So Enough, I think, is a group of activists, like environmental activists, social justice, and I can share next time with you guys if there's any link for them, or I can find it maybe on the podcast as well.
I've just sent a link to everybody on chat and to the website, and it's a degrowth network. So I guess to explore sort of degrowth ideas and, in general.
Yeah, economics as well.
It's all sort of economics wise. I think they're actually just about to have a summit, or maybe they've just had a summit. Just let me see. I saw something on the website when I was looking at it. Anyway, worth checking out. I've only become aware of it as well through Nico, your podcast. So fairly new to it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add up what Jennifer was asking. Yeah, for me during the work with Enough, I noticed if you what the people interviewed, I think that's part of the same group community. So we had like, as I said earlier on, farmers, food producers, and one guy, particularly an Alos guy, was an artist on the artist, but it's kind of like fighting for rights for different artists, like especially, for example, African artists, like people draw that. Yeah, I didn't get the whole thing was saying, but I can tell he helps. I think he's fighting their rights, their work to be acknowledged, something like that. If I'm right. So there were different. There's different. Every person they got different work they do.
I've just looked up on the website about what the vision is. The Scotland we are seeking to create and recover is a place of care, joy, and equity with material sufficiency and relational abundance. A degrowth Scotland is one in which there is an equitable downscaling of production and consumption that has increased human well-being and enhanced ecological conditions at the local and global level in the short and long term. So they've got, that's their little blurb. But yes, they will have lots of strands and lots of interesting stuff on the website. And it is about sort of tackling the economic paradigm of perpetual growth and switching it to something that basically works within planetary boundaries and human boundaries. I think that's my understanding of degrowth. Complex thing.
I'm just going to ask, I see there's a question from Kat. Kat, is that?
Oh, yes, Katie,
yes, sir. Yeah, the challenges on that during the working with Enough, I think for me was on my side. For example, when you interviewing people, for example, I have to make sure that my voice is clear. And secondly, acknowledge that English is not my first language. And make sure that I say something that the people can actually relate. Because sometimes you can try to say something, but nice people, they'll quick understand what you're trying to say. So they guide you straight in. So yeah, that's what I learned through that. They were very friendly people. Honestly, they were just easy to talk to. And yeah, what else? Yeah, sometimes they use some words I didn't know. I asked. There was one word particular I think is still staying with me. It said doilers. I don't know what means doilers. Like in Africa, when you say doilers, I'll make an example. We think about those ladies selling things on the street, like clothes and, that's what I thought. So when they say doilers, and during the conversation, I asked, can't remember what she said, but so those are things I learned years ago. I'm trying to think about the challenges, like really that. Yeah, sometimes if the introduction was so bad, because it depends, everybody's got, it was a different, what's called connections. Some connection can be really not good. Even myself, sometimes if I find myself that, I didn't say this well, I re-record the introduction and then edit it again, make it sound really good. Most of those recordings I already have to re-record myself for closing and for opening and closing. So it would be good. So that's that. Yeah. So the process again is like once I used to finish one episode, interview and edit it, I'll send it to the group. They'll listen to it and then they come back to me, and then they'll say, okay, it's fine. Oh, can you? Yeah, it's a very yeah, maybe that's a challenge. Like if you say done well, and then they say, no, can you take that out? Not in a nice way. I mean, like in a nice way, like, oh, do you mind to change that? Or maybe they're like, because yeah, I think to be honest, the first two interviews, I was a little bit nervous even myself, because I was trying to impress enough instead of using my own experience. Then I end up stuck between this, like, oh, what they think instead of what I know. So once I moved from that position, and then I had the freedom to do. I told myself, I have experience. They have nothing. They don't know nothing about podcasts. They don't know how to edit. I'm the one that will do it. Let me do my work. Great. Then after that, it become like super easy to go. So what I'm saying in life, sometimes we get caught up trying to impress the bosses. Then you lose your own ability that you got experience. Actually, you don't need the bosses. I mean, all you need is the production that it's already been given to me. And yeah, so after the third one, they didn't need to listen much and change anything. There was nothing changed. And I was more confident at that time, like feel settled down a bit. So I don't know if that makes sense.
I can see, Suzanne, you've been typing in chat. Do you want to maybe say it rather than...
Yeah, hello everyone. It's a very interesting journey where Nico is explaining just how on the edge of things he has been to find out, and many of the visitors to our hub also will be very much unaware of what something like degrowth actually exists as a concept. Nico, you explained that you sort of come to it as it's, let's have a look at this. I don't fully understand that. Can we explore this a bit more? Could you speak to that a bit more about how other types of ways of doing that, so that at the hub we can unpack the jargon and the science into manageable bits for people who have a little bit of time to be interested, perhaps? I don't know whether that's enough or too much.
No, it's okay. You mean, are you talking about degrowth and decolonization? Are you talking about if you want to do similar to that?
Just any, like what is the climate emergency?
I think the best way to do is do on your hub, for example, you can on your group find people who have knowledge and that can be shared with other people who don't have knowledge. I think that's what enough they did. So I don't know if it makes sense. They set up the questions, I did not. So yeah, that's the way they come up. So if you listen in the podcast, I don't talk much about degrowth, decolonization, because I'm also listening, learning from these people. But you're right, yes. It's still processing to me, like to actually talk more about degrowth and decolonization. And as I said earlier on, it comes into different ways as well. So I'm not sure what do you do in your hub. I know you said something, but yeah.
Sorry there. I lost the connection. What do we do? Well, we're on the very verge of working out what we actually are going to do, because it's a very, very new space. So anything that you could contribute to the start of this would be excellently received.
Well, that's good. I don't know. For me, yeah, if I got spare time, why not? I can help. But I think, as I said, I'm a podcaster, so the only thing I can do is to put your work in the podcast and maybe talk to you, and then we set up some questions and we'll talk to you, and then people can understand about your work and stuff like that.
Some questions. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if I answered well.
No, it's a bit vague, isn't it? Because it's also it's a strange shape, and it's a new thing.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very new thing to me as well, and I think the second project I might have more. I might have more knowledge about things, and do lots of reading about stuff.
We're all learning, and we're all on a place in this. So sharing that vulnerability, I think, really helps people to come in.
Yep, I'll be on this community as well. Sorry, on this group, I would love to be part of it. So if there's anything, right. I think Kazaskas can share my email address, and then we can chat about things. Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And then there's Jennifer again.
Yeah, Jennifer's got the hand up.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Just coming in from the complete opposite, perhaps, perspective. So just as a wee background, I was working as a climate scientist for the last, 5-10 years. And perhaps I'm coming from this at the kind of different perspective of how do we make it more how do we communicate better as scientists, as experts, and really help to share the messages, these important messages. And ultimately, that's what brought me into storytelling and the importance of narrative in particular. So I wonder, both yourself, Nico, or anyone else in the group, do you have advice or ideas for someone like myself, as what would be most helpful in that regards?
Wow, you already said you are a scientist, so I don't know, but I like that. During the COP26, I was involved in. I interviewed lots of people during the COP26, and I started with kids, for example, like very young. I asked one project, I volunteer in. You live in Glasgow, right? In Woodlands. I don't know if you know Woodlands Community Garden.
Yeah.
I volunteer there. So they asked me to to interview small kids. The scholars always got an event for kids. So I still got these videos around, and so at the point I'm using this, I'm saying the only way to move forward is to start with young kids. So those are people that actually raise more awareness quicker than us as others, because everybody loved to hear those very nice voice and little voice, and so they were talking about climate change. And then I done one interview with African ladies. They were during the COP26. They came from Manchester, some of them did London and stuff like that. I was really impressed to see that, especially our communities, they get involved about climate change, because before I came to Europe, I have no idea what climate change means or what was it. In Africa, when there's no rain, we don't care. No, it's not like we don't care. It's just like there's nothing we can do, you know what I mean? It's just become a norm thing. We don't know what's going on. That comes back to me like a lack of knowledge to us, But when I seen those ladies, I was asking them, why are you involved on COP26? They said, we're here as well to let our voices heard. We want to be in that table where the decisions are made. And because they said in Africa, the women, they go and collect the water far away. So they want that change. They want the water to be in the house, or the rain, something like that. But I'm not going to go to the whole story they told me. So that for me, I'll go back to your question. I think the only way we can do is to share these ideas. And for me, I promote my podcast and then use the podcast. People, you'll be surprised. There's so many people that listen to the podcast nowadays. And as long as the content is perfect, it's written nice, people want to know. But yeah, that's what I learned as well. Like, you need to know what you're talking about and writing about. So most of the time, I'm not in the expert. People talk to me. I'm just asking questions. So I don't really take much. I listen a lot. So I like that. So I don't know if I answered okay, or if someone can add up something.
I mean, I can jump in and say that was a really nice answer. Thank you. And you absolutely did, because I also had experience. And I think something that you talked about there at the very end, the listening part, like that's so important in storytelling from all perspectives. Like I almost did a similar thing at COP26, was just speaking to people on the streets. Like some of it was recorded. I don't know what we'll do with it yet, but just speaking with like anybody and everybody on the streets, and like having those conversations and listening to what climate change meant to them, and then being able to bring that kind of expert understanding to what matters to them. Was like a really, and those conversations. So like when you're talking about the podcast, like it's a shared conversation, as opposed to, for example, like so often I think both in science and activism, we can fall into the trap of being preachy rather than having these conversations that people can genuinely relate to. So no, thank you. That was a really lovely answer. I don't know if anyone wants to build on it further.
I just want to say, see, like you said, you got recordings, but I don't know what to do with them. But if you think it's really valid, like you want to use them for something, if I got spare time, I can edit it for you.
Oh,
and then,
yeah, we could definitely connect.
Yeah, then you can see I had an idea, like on June is called the Refugee Month or something like that. There's an event in Woodlands Community Garden on the 19th of June. They asked me, Nico, can you add up any idea? So yeah, they got lots of things gonna be going on that day. So I came with the idea. I never told them yet. I'm working on it. That to collect all these videos I've done during the COP26, interviewing those kids and other people, and make them in one roll. So and show them as a slide, and the voices of people as well, because it'd be great. Sound like remind people already forget about COP26. So I need to refresh people's mind on that garden. Yeah, that's my other idea for, to use recording like yours, what you're talking about. Sometimes it's not about videos. The voices are more powerful. And so that's an idea I'm going to work on. I mean, so we'll see how it goes.
Sounds great. What was the date again, Nico?
On the 19th of
June.
I will share it on the email, the group's email.
Great.
It's an open space. Everyone can welcome and stuff. I think it's from 10 to 4. And they're going to have like some African food and stuff. So it's going to be good.
Sounds fantastic. Do we have any more questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Alison.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that. It's brilliant to hear what you're doing, Nico. One of the things I was just interested in, because you said that you had the questions given to you before for the podcasts, and now you're kind of moving on to maybe this other project. Are you setting yourself questions for those? Or are you trying to be like more like a conversation responsive? Or are you trying to set like yourself a format to do the podcasts?
No, we are using the same system that the project, they ask the questions for their service users and the staff and management. But for me, because I'm interviewing them, so yeah, I'm following that. But I can also put something a bit if the conversation is going around. So I think it's about what do you want in your project? What do you want people to know about your project? Do you want to hear if your staff, they're happy working for you? Or do you want to hear what your service users are happy with your service? Or do you want to raise awareness that the world should know that you got a wonderful project? Stuff like, it's not me going to them like, oh, I'm here today, I want to ask you a question of a project. So what I did with Enough is open many doors now, because people like the way we did it. It really works well, because instead of me coming to your project and ask people questions, I might miss something that you really wanted to know about, because I just jump in or something like that. So I don't know if it makes sense. If you create your own questions for your own research, whatever you want to find about your project, and then you send it to me. The reason why sometimes I think people who don't work, people work with you, but if I interview them because I don't work with them, they're more opening up more than when you talk to them. Because if you talk to your boss, sometimes it's not in the bad words, don't get me wrong. There's this thing like as human beings who don't really open up everything because, not because you're going to lose your job, but just something like that. But for me, when they talk to me, because they know I don't know nothing about them, and I'm also learning them, that gives us a very good chance to have the best interviews and communications. I don't know if it makes sense.
It does. I think it does. Yeah. There's nodding from Alison.
Thank you for that, Nico.
Yeah. Well, it's 9 minutes till 2. So if there's a chance for one last question, if there is anybody that's got a burning question or comment, and if not, Pedro, you need to unmute yourself first.
Yes. Bueno, es a good experience to engage with another people from another cultures. I was involved during the COP26 with a small project, an activism. And the idea was to get to know what is the artist doing about the murals. Using the murals I collect mural with narrative or climate change, climate justice, and climate social justice. My question is, how can you use it, your podcast, to collect different points of view about, for example, the global South and the global North, how to make a connection, how to collect different points of view. The problem is because when celebrate the COP, the ausent is global South. All the environment and everything is about global North, what happened in global North. Also, the majority of COP celebrate in Global North. So I don't know, maybe it's a good resource, your project, to connect this Global North and Global South. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, thank you. That question for me, yeah, it's I see where you come from. I think that's why we are very lucky now because we are living in the world of technology, which means secondly, the podcast as well is one of the best way to network. I can go and interview someone from the north, global north, for the south and east, and put them all together. Not in the same time, but I mean, say to listen and stuff like that. And then we can pick up the views. But I'm not an expert really to tell you what is the best way to make it work in this way. Like, yeah, I'm also in that same question you asked me. I'm still struggling to understand why the world they are not together on this and understand. So, yeah, it's a tricky one, to be honest. It's something that we need to keep doing. I don't know if I heard you properly in the earlier or said what the artists do with this. I'm sure if I understood you. Like, if I'm right, like, because this question came from another person when they said artists. When I mean artists, I'm talking about like musicians, for example, or comedians, or people themselves. So during the COP26, I done lots of climate change comedy. Yeah, for comedians, we done in the Saucer here in Glasgow. It was really a lot of people came, and I don't know the word in English used. The people came from different countries to talk about COP26. Some of them came to the show. That was really interesting. We had one guy, particular from India, is a very big person in India. He works with young people on the climate change. So they were there, and the one actually, sorry, I hosted two people myself in this house. One lady from Norway. She was part of the climate change Engamate. Then I had Sadaf Khalid. She's a Pakistan kind of like activist as well. So both of them, they stayed in my house. So we had a great time, like going, talking to people as well. So the point about, so we did 2 shows about stand-up comedy for the climate change. I've seen that there's people that do want to know more. They do want to share knowledges as well and as well work together. But I think the time was too short, maybe. Or again, I'm still, as I said, I feel like people forgot about COP26 because there's nothing really, even the government is not talking much about it. So, but yeah, I'm with you in that question. We need to do more, but raising awareness by talking about it.
So, sorry, Pedro, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think Jennifer, she wanted to say something.
I just thought Pedro might have had another comment, but it was just an intake of breath. Jennifer, you had some questions about general sort of, is it worth getting into podcasting? It sounds like, and what is the podcasting market saturated, and then is it a lot of effort to get your audience? In my experience of podcasting, the market is much more fragmented. So you're really looking for your niche audience, and if you cover something that nobody else is covering, you've got a good chance of building up your followers. I don't know if anybody else can comment on that. I mean, Katie, you've got podcasting experience, but also, marketing takes time. If you wanted to have a go at doing an episode or 2, we would be very happy to host it as part of 1000 Better Stories podcast, so you don't have to do all the, and see how you go and whether it's worth your time. And as I said, we have these grants available, so you can apply for money it's not a lot of money, but it's a little bit of money to help towards sort of experimentation anyway.
Oh, thank you. I want to go back to Jennifer because I think we know Engamate.
I think that was Jennifer's question.
Oh, no, it was actually.
Oh, was it a different one?
I put that in the chat just for some general.
Oh, right. Okay. I didn't realize.
No, it's okay. Like following on from Pedro's question and the answer, it's lovely to know that you also know Engamate. But my question, my follow up to Pedro's kind of question really was that is storytelling enough in itself for making those connections, or can we start to share stories of how we actually are working together. So for example, I'm currently working to start a project with my friend, an activist in Tanzania, the birthday trees, and kind of being able to show how, you know, despite having never met each other, like she's in Tanzania and I'm here in Glasgow, but we hope to be able to really build kind of something together, and doing it jointly and kind of bringing those voices together through action. You know, is storytelling and sharing these stories between the global north and the south enough, or is there a need, and is it more empowering perhaps to show examples of how we can be working together?
We are very dangerously close to finishing
Okay.
with our time. So before anybody answers, I was going to highlight a session we actually have about storytelling, which is general, you know, storytelling for change practices and how you're using stories. And perhaps that would be like a bit, it's 1.5 hours, so it might be better to sort of have that kind of more in-depth discussion. If you wanted to join us, it starts at 11. I've just put a couple of links into the upcoming stuff in the chat, and that one of them is that discussion on use of storytelling for change, and there's a booking form on Eventbrite for you to join in. So anybody that's interested in having that kind of wider discussion, please come along. And we're very much interested in sort of continuing that kind of wider discussion. Here we try to sort of keep it to podcasting. Yes, there's so many things that you can talk about. It's insane. But we also have a writing Skillshare, monthly Skillshare starting in June. So I've put that in there, and that's more for people who are interested in writing. So it's still storytelling. And I'm sure there's going to be overlap in themes and how to use stories as well with that. And obviously we're going to continue with these podcasting Skillshares as well every month. And next month, I'm hoping that we're going to have people involved in producing a Local Zero, which is talking about net zero solutions, local net zero solutions, and more of an academic podcast from academic team in Strathclyde University, and they're working with Bespoke Media as the producers. So that's an interesting sort of different model of working and telling stories as well.
I just want to thank you as well for having me here today, and yeah, I learned a lot as well. 3 questions.